The Cartographer of Coincidences. On Synchronicity. A cartographer had spent his life drawing maps of causes and effects. His maps were famous. He drew, for the great universities, the maps that showed how this disease followed this water, how this trade route followed this mountain pass, how this crop failure followed this rainfall pattern. His maps had lines, and the lines had arrows, and the arrows pointed from cause to effect, and the effect was always after the cause, and the cause was always before the effect, and the world, in his maps, was a great mechanism of one thing pushing the next thing. The universities paid him well. In his 60th year, he began to notice things his maps could not include. He noticed, for example, that on the morning his wife had a dream of her dead mother. A letter arrived from his wife's sister in another country, mentioning the dead mother for the first time in years. He drew an arrow from one to the other. The arrow had nothing to point from because there was no cause. He erased the arrow. He noticed, 2 months later, that on the day a small bird flew into his window and died. A friend in the next city died of an illness no one had expected him to die of. He tried to draw an arrow. He could not. He erased it. He noticed in the year that followed dozens of such happenings. He noticed in each case that two things had arrived together which had no cause between them. He noticed also that they were not random, they were paired. The pairings had a quality of meaning to them, though he could not have said where the meaning came from. It was as if the world occasionally made a small rhyme, and the rhyme was not caused by anything, the rhyme just was, and the rhyme meant something. He began a new map. This map had no lines, it had no arrows. He drew it on a great sheet of fine paper. On the paper, where the line between cause and effect would have been, he put nothing. He put only the events. He marked them with small symbols. He drew them in the places they had occurred. The map filled in the course of 3 years with a kind of scatter. He looked at the scatter often. He could not at first see anything in it. In the 4th year, he began to notice that the symbols, when they were close together, were connected by a strange, faint shimmer. Not lines, not arrows, a shimmer like the shimmer above a hot road in summer between certain pairs of events. He had not drawn the shimmer. The shimmer was simply there. In the 5th year, he began to mark the shimmer with knots. He could not draw the shimmer itself. The shimmer was not a line. But he could mark on the map the places where the shimmer was with small knots of thread. The thread was red. He sewed it through the paper. The map became slowly a tapestry. In the 6th year, when the map had perhaps 200 knots, he held it up to the light. The knots, when the light was right, made a face. It was not a face he recognized, and then on second look it was his own face. It was the face of the man who had been making the map. It was the face that, in some sense, had been drawn by all the things he had been mapping, not because he had caused any of them, but because his own pattern of attention had shaped the map, and the map had, in turn, shaped its maker. He sat down with the tapestry on the floor of his study. He understood then that he had not been making a map of the world. He had been making, by indirection, a map of the deep self that was reading the world. The coincidences were not random. They were not caused. They were the world's way of speaking to a particular pattern of attention. Each person who attended deeply had their own such pattern. Each person who attended at all had a smaller version of one. The coincidences appeared in the pattern of the attender. They appeared more often the more deeply one attended. The world, in some sense, had been speaking to him for 60 years. He had only just begun to listen. He gave up his work with the universities. He spent the last 12 years of his life sewing the tapestry. By the time he died, it had 4,000 knots. The face was, by then, more visible. It was, by then, less his own face and more a face he could not have named, older, larger, somehow more patient. His wife inherited the tapestry. She hung it in their bedroom. She did not look at it directly. She knew by then not to. She let the light fall on it sometimes in the afternoons, and the face emerged for a moment from the knots, and she nodded to it, and it nodded back. The world speaks to the attentive in coincidences. The coincidences are not caused. They are not random, they form a tapestry. The tapestry, held to the light, makes a face. The face is your own, and not your own. The work is to mark the knots and not the lines. The cartographer of causes will not see it. The cartographer of coincidences will.